Hey, I'm Whitney Brock and welcome to my studio. In this episode, I am thrilled to go over with you how I paint one of my favorite subjects, river rocks. The reflections of water, the movement of water, all those great things. I've done a whole series in these and they're pretty big. They're usually around 36 by 48. And I'm going to go over the step-by-step explanation of my process. So let's get started. I start with my 36 by 48 canvas, which I have sanded and done a pretty detailed drawing with graphite pencil and then sprayed with a final fixative spray so that the pencil doesn't move. I start off in the right or the left-hand corner just to keep my hand out of the paint for a while. And I'm pretty much getting in a lot of action here, getting a feel for what I'm actually getting into painting. This is a detail. Now I'm using Winsor&Newton oils and I'm also mixing it with Winsor&Newton clear glaze to get some of this real wonderful transparency. And also between those rocks, I'm getting a lot of depth this way. So when I mix with the glaze, I can really pull off. I've got a longer dry time, so I can work it longer. And probably like the next day, maybe 2 days, I can go back in and keep working and lifting off some of that color to get that rich depth. This is another up close. Really, I have to treat each rock like its own little individual portrait. They all have their own little character. And when I paint around these rocks, I want it to be wet on wet. So I want the dark there, the crevices between the rocks to really sink and melt into the edges of those rocks to create a very natural feel, as you can see there. And again, I have a couple of days in which to get that done. All right, so back to the big scale here, the 36 by 48. I'm doing all the easy stuff first, folks. Kind of lazy on my part. And what I mean by that is the areas that have been left white, or most of those areas, have a lot of distortion due to water movement. The flow of water will really mess with the rocks and their shapes. So here we go with working in. I pretty much have finished the top left and the bottom left. And again, pretty easy stuff to get in. But those reflections on those rocks, these are just a one glaze. I'm gonna be doing another glaze on top of the major, the high profile rocks there. They're gonna get another glaze to give them a lot more depth. A lot more character is gonna come out in those rocks with some different colorations. The next scene here, all right, I want to talk about the blue rock, middle bottom. All right, so this is the best one. I can really talk to you about how to get those reflections from the sunlight and the water. And those white kind of marbleization of the rock is not white paint. It is me digging back in to get to the gessoed canvas underneath it. Wow, right? If I was going to throw on a bunch of white paint right now, it would muddy out my whole painting. It would just look like gray, ugh. So that's how I get a lot of these real great depths and illusions of reflections. All right, I'm continuing on here with some of the other major rocks. So like I said, the high profile rocks, they're kind of like our stars of the show. And I want to make sure that they're all good and I've paid a lot of attention to them. Again, the reflection here on some of those that I just put in, the depth of those are a little more intense than in the rest of the painting. So you see what just happened there. All those little rocks up there in the top right, well, they didn't take a whole lot of brain power. They're small, they don't have a lot of reflections going on, but the deep dark crevices around them is so important to balance out this composition. If I don't have enough of those darks around the rocks, then it's going to be a very weak painting in my opinion. So there I'm continuing on, and again, what do I have left? The hard stuff. So that's my bad. But around it, if I didn't have all that information in there, it would have been very difficult for me to finish this piece of my puzzle. It would have been just a lot of complicated head scratching to kind of even find out where I am. There we go. All right, so the abstraction here, it's not easy. It makes absolutely no sense. So those are rocks underneath the water that have been distorted. Their shapes mean nothing. But, you know, you might think you can just wing through this and no one's really going to be able to tell. But you can. I can tell. When I look back and reflect on what I've painted, I can see when it's not natural. I can see when I've just sort of gone in halfway and not really put a lot of thought into it. So, you know, it's real important to keep your reference in check, especially in these abstracted areas, because you can really blow your illusion really fast, and we really don't want that. So to finish, as you just saw, this is it. This is the done. This is, I titled it Current Situation. And the last thing I do to current situation is I use my mop brush and I soften all those abstraction areas so that they melt into the area next to them, whether it's dark or another rock. If they don't flow, if it looks cut out and stuck on again, you're going to lose your entire illusion of water flowing over these rocks and the sunlight playing its part in refracting the light. And it just, to me, not only is it a soothing piece to look at, but it's a soothing piece to paint. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed this explanation of my process. And if you liked it, hit like. If you really, really liked it, hit subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.